This program is brought to you by the Reeves Law Firm, www.reevesfirm.com.
In the know. Good evening, everyone. In the know. Tony Reeves, fire. Following the news in any way, shape, or form. No shortage of things to talk about. What does it mean? What will it bring? This is a reality we simply have to accept. Tony Reeves, fire. Tony Reeves. Let's go ahead and get started.
Today, everyone, we are going to talk a little bit about why your doctor won't fill out a form for Social Security. And also I'm going to give you some tips on some unique ways to get your doctors to provide information on your behalf for your case. You know, when people ask for these forms to be filled out, a lot of times people don't understand why are these forms so important. Well, the reality is that most of your doctor's notes and information in there gives an overview of your case, but they don't really give specifics about what you can do. So these forms are intended to be what we call medical source statements. And these are statements about what you can still do despite your impairments based on the doctor's findings, meaning the labs, the treatments, diagnosis, and clinical findings. Now, there should be basically two sets of these statements in terms of the particular limitations. The statements should focus on work-related activities such as sitting, standing, walking, lifting, carrying, handling objects, and speaking. And they also, from a mental standpoint, should focus on your ability to understand, carry out, remember instructions, and to respond appropriately to supervision, coworkers, and work pressures. In essence, what these statements, or what statements, whether it be on the form or in your treating notes, is a direct indication of what the doctor believes you can or you can't do. Remember, you're trying to prove that your condition prevents you from being able to work. So having a form or a statement by your doctors articulating about what you can and you can't do goes a long way to assisting Social Security in assessing whether or not you're able to do any work within the meaning of the Social Security regulations. Something that you probably already know. Sometimes the doctors just won't fill out the forms, and that just drives people nuts. And so they're like, why won't my doctor fill out the form? Well, it could be for a variety of reasons. One, it may take up too much time. You know, if you've got a doctor that has a lot of patients coming in and out and so forth, the time that they have to stop to review your file may be cumbersome. Second of all, they might not feel comfortable articulating what they believe is your specific limitations. It's one thing to say you got a headache or your back and everything, but then to go on the next level and say what you can and can't do, sometimes that's not very easy. It may be outside the area of their expertise. If they're just your primary doctor and you have something related to you from a rheumatoid standpoint or neurological standpoint, they may not feel comfortable writing a form like that or giving statements about what you can and can't do. The harsh part is they may not actually believe you're disabled at all. And that's just something that you need to accept. They may not believe you're disabled. And then the hardcore portion is they just may not want to do it. So these are some of the reasons that the doctors may or may not feel comfortable or may not have a desire to fill out a form on your behalf. To get the forms that you need completed, meaning, or the statements from your doctors. If you find yourself in a situation where you can't get a doctor to fill out a form for Social Security or even for your attorney or your non-attorney who's representing you, try a couple of other unique ways. Like, for instance, what I have experienced is that it's amazing. They won't fill forms out for Social Security, but they will fill forms out for other things that can provide useful information. Handicap sticker applications typically will ask, what's the condition, what's the diagnosis, what problems do they have, what accommodations they need. Long-term, short-term disability. Those forms almost are always filled out by docs, and they don't typically have too much of an issue. Family Medical Leave Act forms. You would be surprised the number of times those forms are actually completed by docs. VA determinations. Even if they don't fill out forms, you'll typically get a compensation and pension examination where it gives a detailed breakdown about what the person what you can and you can't do. Workers' compensation. Typically, they do, whether you've reached maximum medical improvement or forms and so forth in terms of your limitations pretty regularly during the course of your workers' comp claim. Vocational rehabilitation. It's not uncommon that they will actually do a detailed evaluation of you and specifically give you tests. I mean, for everything across the board, meaning both physical, mental, what you can and can't do, whether they think you can work in the whole nine. So these different forms are great because even if you can't get your doctor to fill out a Social Security form for you or write a statement about what your limitations are, these forms from these different agencies, you can use those for your Social Security case. And guess what? The information that they provide in those forms will give specific limitations that Social Security can now use for your case. Now here's the reality. Unfortunately, you may not have the ability to have access to any of those forms or types of programs that I was talking about earlier. But there are ways that you can get statements in your record about your condition. Now, talk to your doctor and ask your doctor specifically what they think you can or you cannot do. And then when they tell you, ask them why they believe that. And so think about it for a second. If you're going to your doctor and you have back problems, and so you want to ask them, how long do you think I could probably sit with my back problems and so forth? And if they tell you this is why, this is what is your back problems cause, this is how long you can sit, and this is why I believe, because I'm looking at your x-rays and your MRI, and this is what I believe. And then the other part is ask them how long that you've had these limitations. And then once you've gotten a discussion with them, this is where it's really important to talk to them, ask them if they'll put that in your notes. Because trust me, even if they won't fill out a form, the fact that they've taken the opportunity to literally lay out what they think you can and can't do and their support in statements in your notes is great. It goes a long way to help you out. Now, let me go ahead and throw this other thing out here. If you don't, if the doctor doesn't feel comfortable, ask your doctor if they would be willing to refer you to a particular specialist. And a lot of times that's what sometimes docs will do. They'll say, okay, I'm going to send you to this doctor and they can give you a full detailed breakdown. Here's the thing you really don't want to do. Don't ask your doctor to write if you're disabled. Most people think that if their doctor says that they are disabled, that is the holy grail, that is the rump shaker, the bra for it all, that is the golden egg. But the reality is that every doctor in their mind of what is or is not, quote unquote, disabled is different. And Social Security is the final decision maker for that regardless. So you want them to specifically indicate what your limitations are. That is much more important to you in your case than it is for you to have some statement from your doctor saying that you're disabled. Trust me, people, I know it's hard. Getting statements from your doctors about what you can and you can't do is tough. But you want to take the effort to get those things in your record because this will go a long way towards, one, giving you the opportunity to prove you're disabled, and two, getting an idea of what information you can present to Social Security to demonstrate that your condition keeps you from performing work that you used to do or any other work that exists in the national economy.